Let's talk Student Aid Index, or SAI. So navigating paying for college is pretty complicated. There are a lot of acronyms, but when it comes to FAFSA, the Federal Application for Free Student Aid, there is even more confusion, especially after the most recent major updates. So previously, the number that we got from that is the EFC, Expected Family Contribution, but now it is called the SAI, Student Aid Index. And along with changing the name of it, the calculation changed majorly. In this video, I want to talk about how SAI is calculated, what goes into it. I'll point out some of the differences, but this is important because this is used by universities and some scholarship committees as well to indicate what kind of aid your student can receive. Now, make sure you hit subscribe because every week we have a new strategy for your family to work towards a debt-free degree. Hey there, my name is Jocelyn Pearson, founder of the Scholarship System and Debt-Free Degree Lab, our two programs to help families build strong financial futures rather than ones with decades of student loan debt. Now, just a note, this is focused on U.S. citizens and permanent residents, not international students. So let's begin with what is the Student Aid Index, or SAI. So like I said briefly, this is the number that's calculated. It's the result of the FAFSA application, and it is used to determine your student's eligibility for financial aid. This is something that actually is done every single year starting senior year in high school until they graduate from college. Now, in the 2023-2024 academic year, that's when they switched over from EFC to SAI. So what is used when making this calculation? First and foremost, parent income and assets, and this is a big one. So as long as the student is dependent, which yes, most likely the student is, even if the student is solely paying for college themselves, they are most likely dependents unless they meet very specific criteria. So that said, parent assets and income will be factored into this. Secondly is student income and assets. Now these count at a higher percentage actually, because the universities and the government assume that if the student has money, it's primarily going to go towards college, whereas parents, of course, have to pay for a lot of other things as well. Third is household size. Now, this is something that has changed. So this is different than number of students in college. So household size, the people in a household, is factored in slightly. This is factored into something called the income protection allowance. So basically, the more people in a household, the more income that's protected against being required to pay for college. Now, this is different again than the number in college. So previously with EFC, the number in college mattered. For example, say your expected family contribution came back as 20,000, you had 2 in college, they split that 20,000 by 2 and said, okay, each of your kids, you need to put 10,000 and you need to put 10,000 for the other one. This was removed, which is a major oversight, and it definitely is a disadvantage for families who have multiple students in at the same time. Fourth is special circumstances. So factors such as unemployment, medical expenses, significant financial changes that really can influence SAI. So they do have that factored in there as well. Overall, the goal of this change and implementing SAI was to shorten the FAFSA form and simplify the calculation while getting a comprehensive picture of a family's financial situation so that they could understand, can they pay for college? What can they put towards college? And therefore, what does a student need in order to attend financially? Now, the SAI Calculator, or the Federal Student Aid Estimator, this is available on the FAFSA website, and it helps families get just a little bit of an idea of what their SAI may be prior to submitting the official FAFSA. This is especially helpful for those families who are getting ahead on paying for college and not quite there, ready to submit it. Here's a step-by-step guide for using that calculator. First is to gather financial documents. This could be any kind of financial documents like tax returns, W-2s, any kind of untaxed income. Second, you want to access the calculator. Visit the FAFSA website, and then you want to find their Federal Student Aid Estimator. I'm sure if you just Google that, you can find the .gov website that has that as well. Third is entering the information. You want to make sure that you are entering it thoroughly and correctly. This will prompt you for details about income, assets, household size, just like what I mentioned earlier. And fourth, you can review the estimate. So once you've entered all this information, then they will provide you with an estimate SAI. This gives you and your student a preview of their financial aid eligibility, but of course it is nothing official until you actually submit FAFSA and get the actual number. So note that this is different than the actual FAFSA. This is just an estimation. Now let's quickly talk about understanding the SAI. So SAI is used again by colleges to determine your student's federal financial aid that they can qualify for. So this is including Pell Grants, which are need-based grants and do not have to be paid back. Federal student loans, where typically the interest rates are lower than private, and they also have more flexibility with repayment after graduation. Work-study programs, these are part-time jobs where a student receives financial aid in exchange for it, and it does not have to be paid back. And then lastly, SAI can be used for scholarships. So not only scholarships through the university, but also private scholarships. Sometimes they ask for the SAI or in the past EFC. Now, if your family does this and finds out that, hey, we're not going to qualify for anything, then you really need to focus on scholarships. And if you find out that you can qualify for some money, you still want to focus on scholarships because that might increase the kinds of scholarships your student can go for. So I have a free webinar. It's about an hour long where I cover my 6 steps to securing scholarships and how I got 6 figures. So if you go to scholarshipsystem.com/free webinar, you can check that out, or you can click on this video. You'll also find the link in the description below. Now, let's talk about what the number actually represents. It is important to note that the SAI is not the actual dollar amount that your family will have to pay. The SAI is used to calculate aid and calculate the bill, but it can mean very different things at every single school that your student applies to. So here is how they use SAI. First, they look at the total cost of attendance at a university, or COA. Each school has their own, and it is supposed to include everything: tuition, books, fees, room and board, all of the expenses needed. Then from the total cost of attendance, your SAI, or what you are expected to contribute, is subtracted from that cost of attendance. And the difference represents financial need. So say the total cost of attendance for the year is $50,000, your SAI comes back as $20,000, then the need gap is $30,000. $50,000 minus $20,000 equals $30,000. Now, based on that, some universities say, okay, we will entirely meet that gap. And other schools say, well, okay, that stinks that you have a gap, but you've got to figure it out. We'll give you something towards it, but we don't guarantee that we'll cover all of it. So this is why we talk about in the scholarship system, we have a whole lesson on merit scholarships. This is why even with the same SAI, different schools and how they handle the SAI can offer very different packages, even though they're seeing the same FAFSA number. So how can we get the most money out of this? First and foremost is to start early. Some states are actually first come, first serve on different types of money. So we want to try to submit it as close to that opening October 1st date of our students' senior year in high school. And then every year thereafter, we want to try and get it close. If you're in that first month, that's great. Don't think you have to be on October 1st. It's fine. But we definitely don't want to wait until spring or near the tax deadline or whatever deadline the universities have. Second is to make sure that we submit accurate information. We do not want to get hung up or things get rejected and then it's delayed and then we don't know what we're going to get. So trying to make sure that all of our numbers are accurate when we are inputting it will definitely keep it smooth and move things along faster. Third is to review and update your financial situation if it changes. So one of the things with FAFSA is that it actually uses prior tax information, which your financial situation may have drastically changed from that. And that leads me into number 4. If it has changed, you can actually submit a financial aid appeal. This is typically done through the university. You want to ask them how it's done. I have a whole video all about financial aid appeals and a FAFSA playlist, so we will link to those in the description below. But comment below, have you used the student aid estimator? What did it come back as? You don't have to share the actual number, but were you shocked by it? Was it higher than you thought? Was it lower than you thought? Was it easy to use? Comment below so that other families can understand, should we check this out and use it? And like I mentioned, no matter what your results are, all families need to be doing scholarships as well, private scholarships. So I have that free webinar. You just go to thescholarshipsystem.com/free webinar to check that out so that you can be doing that in addition to relying on FAFSA money or shooting for FAFSA money. So that said, the Student Aid Index, the Student Aid Calculator, these are important for families to understand what their possible financial aid eligibility looks like. And that way, different universities, we can understand, okay, will we get money? Will we not? How much are we going to have to pay? It really can give your family a good idea of your situation well before you're actually getting those financial aid offers from the university. All right, make sure you hit subscribe. Every week we have a new strategy for your family to work towards that debt-free degree. I'll see you in the next video.